Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We're back here on the workbench. Let's turn down some of these medias and the phones and all that other stuff so we don't get bombarded too awful bad on. All right, so what we've got here today is a Dave made 1x2. Let me disconnect power here. I went ahead and just did a quick little preliminary check just this thing actually functions before we start. Um, this came in and here recently, and he asked me in the note to go ahead and go through a few different things that was that he had personally saw that he needed. So some of them are obvious as far as that goes, but we'll get to that here in a second. But JR, what we've found so far that we're going to be doing on this today. Some of the obvious. We'll start here on the back. Stuff unhooked and out of the way for right now. All right, two things are going on here. One of which is you've got mismatched inputs. One is actually a Teflon, but I think it's one of those cheap Teflon connectors. The connector basically just falls in and out of this one. This is the old Bakelite, not in too good a shape. So we're going to go ahead and replace those. 14 gauge, guys. Come on. 14 gauge power wire to run a 1x2. This is a Toshiba build, so we've actually got something really good to work with. Oh man, one of the other things too that we're going to go ahead and do. I know that I've noticed that this has had at least one transistor replaced in it. You've got different size 10 ohm resistors that are installed into this, so those are going to be coming out, and we're going to match up all three of those throughout the entire build. That's one of the other major things that I've seen. Overall, I mean, it's not really all that bad. We're going to straighten up this mess here as far as on the inside with the two pill. There again, it's not too bad. We're going to pull this out. I'm actually going to replace this with like a half ohm resistor just for SX wise. You can actually run for a little more power. You can actually just run a straight wire from point A to point B. So we're going to do that. I am going to pull the tuning capacitor out because I'm not sure what they've used in there. I can guess, but I don't want to leave it to a guess. I want to know for sure. It's not out real bad, but we definitely want to get that taken care of. I want to go ahead and install a foot on the back of this transformer, so I'll probably just go ahead and pull the transformer so we can get that done and do some reflow work on it. So, but the good news is it functions. So, hey, good afternoon. Let's see here, Dirty Diaper and Bam Bam. What's going on, guys? Let me get some of these cables here out of the way. Unfortunately, my big power supply is down right now, so I'm just using my small 100 amp, which will be fine. I was hoping the modules were going to be in for the other one today so I could work on it, but yeah, things change. Anyhow, let's see. pull out Gertrude for the power wires. The rest of it I usually use my normal Weller soldering iron, but I want to make sure that we're good to go on that. The other thing we need to take a quick look at and check is the fan. Guys, this came in just as you see it. The top, well, this is what they had in it for the screws. There's not even, they're not even 632 screws that were in the case to hold it in. So, JR, those are all going to be replaced with the correct screws. We're going to check your fan. There's got to be a reason why they had the fan hooked. So, the things I miss the most is my mind. Hello, JR. I see you decided to pop in there with us anyways. So let's check your fan here. Okay. It's not vibrating or anything, so I have no idea why that was unhooked. So that'll be taken care of too, big guy. Get that set off here to the side. You can tell that one's not been on in a while, man. It's got a smell to it. Oof. That out of the way because I know that's in the off position. So you must not be up to full temp yet. All this to feed a 1x2, guys. Come on. Yeah, this next weekend I've got to make a run to town over, so I'm actually going to pick up some more covering for the workbench. That way it stays looking nice for a little bit longer anyways. Alright, so pull rubber grommet out. Friend of mine come down here about a month ago, and he seen what I was using for cutters. He actually had a pair of these laying in the back of his truck, and give me these. I'll tell you what, man, these things have been awesome. So much faster than the old way. Yeah, this camera is pretty nice, guys, but it's almost too wide of an angle. So one of the things, since like we redid our workbench, I'll show you. You know, for most of my common knockouts that we use by hand, I actually build a little holder. You know, just makes life a little bit easier as far as here on the workbench. So that's one of the things that has been absolutely awesome. We're actually going to bump this hole up since we're going to put 8-gauge power wire in this. The right connector that we're going to use to get all that together. So is everybody having a good Monday so far starting out? Exactly. That's the whole point of using those. You don't distort the hole. Best part about it, you don't have all those metal shavings in there. You know, some guys, they just use a Vari-Bit or Linux bit, as it's also called. You know, which there's nothing wrong with it, but then you've got all the extra shavings you got to fight with. I just don't like doing that. This should give him plenty of lead. It's about 2 feet of wire, so I should give him plenty as far as that goes to be able to hook up to his connectors and what have you that he's going to be running in the vehicle for this. And one of the things I've been seeing with a lot of different people's videos here lately, not just on the ground, but also on the power strip or bus bar, as some of us like to call it, for the main power. Um, I've been seeing where a lot of these have been coming in, not just in my shop, but others, uh, where the wire is just barely soldered. They've got great big goops, but when you pull it off, there's like no connection down in there. So, a lot of it's because of the fact they're using too small of an iron. I mean, I've got a small weller that I use for a lot of different things, but when it comes to a large power wire like that, uh, you really need to use something that's actually going to make sure that you get the connection down to your main grounds and your main input feeds like you should have. Where I know that's not going to lay without having to have an extra hand in there. We're going to go ahead and pre-tin this one. And that's how it should look, guys. Same thing with the ground. Granted, it's kind of laid up in there in a reverse format, but I kind of did that for a reason. And the reason why is because of the fact that you'll actually have to pull on it a little bit harder. We got a backstop, just in case somebody wants to carry it around. We don't have to worry about it ripping everything loose. JR, I know that we just got off the phone earlier and was talking about the fact that you're retired now, so I'm sure you're going to enjoy a lot more video time and uh, contacts and all that other good stuff here that we've got going on. Hopefully we get some actual decent conditions come in here for too much longer. I know a lot of people have been complaining about that here lately. So, alright, let's get a couple of SO239s. We're going to go ahead and replace those, get that squared away as well. Actually, I'm going to leave that plugged in because I've got a couple other places that'll make life a little faster using that one. Actually, before I get too carried away, let's go ahead and get connectors out of here, or unsoldered rather. You know, curiosity is going to get the better of me on this one. Yeah, it is actually Teflon. But we're going to use some good hardware on that. So let's get some hardware for those too. Well, we're back down to just 2 viewers. I was hoping we'd be able to keep some retention in here, guys. Alright. Now, one of the things I also seen in here, JR, and you're probably not going to be able to see it on camera real well, where they actually use what they call bonding strips here on the sides. This one actually is broke loose here on the side. This one, it's kind of sketchily soldered. The other side appears to be all right. but we're going to redo this one side. I'd say it's where somebody's had this tore apart at one time. So we're going to do those while we think of it. Alright, so you got that reflowed. We'll see who this is, see if it's something important here real quick. I don't recognize this number, so we'll shut that down. Alright. Like I said, these actually look good, but we'll go ahead and just touch them up too while we're at it. At least this primary one here at the center. Now, sometimes I forget about the camera, so I don't think to have it turned where you guys can actually see what I'm doing here. But we're just putting in the new SO239s. We're going to make sure that they've got a good bonded connection here. So with them now being able to be laid flat up against the back of the case, we won't have to worry so much about losing any kind of ground or shaky ground issues or anything crazy like that. Apparently I'm not going to be able to reuse those like I was hoping to. So is it raining anywhere where everybody else is at? We've got a little bit going on here. Just a light drizzle. They're saying we're going to get rain here in Indiana for the next 3 days, I guess. We've actually got more than an adequate amount of solder back here for our bonding tabs, but it actually helps it go down a little easier. time when you add just another drop. All right. Well, the back part's done, big guy. Now we're going to go ahead and try to get some of this other stuff pulled out, rework it. Yeah, that's got a burnt spot in it, so I'm just going to install new ones. So that's the side that had the transistor in it that actually has went, since it's a different lot number, and you can tell it's a little shinier. Rain, rain, and more rain. Yeah, you'll have that from time to time. Okay, so one of the other things we're going to do is I'm going to notch this transformer. Probably rewind it. I really don't like all that excess wire hanging out the back as far as it's attached to the capacitor. And this is the one that somebody's described the line right down the center of it, so we're going to clean that up a little bit. So give me a little bit. You guys will hear a little noise for just a moment. There we go. Yeah, that trace was so fine in between there. If any rosin was to have dropped back down in there within that groove, because that groove was so tiny, and there was already some, some of the rosin that was already starting to come across right in here. That can actually cause a short over time, believe it or not. Okay, so that does have the right number, but we're going to check the capacitance on that. And it's only down 2 picofarads from what it theoretically was, so that's actually a good thing. But that center is actually just a little loose in there. So let's go get some wire. Just so happens, since it had orange in it, I just happen to have some orange here. This is actually a little heavier gauge wire, which is more suited for what we're actually building here, or rebuilding. Well, hello, Mr. Buckman. What's going on, big guy? Hopefully everything's been going all right on your end. always wash out some of the crap that was down in there and some of the jizz. Also helps loosen up all this other rosin that starts seeping out over time as well. Yeah, that could have been bad. Stuck underneath one of those capacitors, guys. Might have rode there for another 20 years and never caused a problem, and then again, could have wound up something serious later down the road. Alright, let's go rinse this back off one more time, and we'll finish this thing up. Looks like a brand new board in there, guys. At least with the lighting. Supposed to, Anthony. Yeah, 14 gauge is not permitted. Yeah, I'm usually pretty busy almost all the time. Of course, you've been here you've seen somewhat good days. You've seen hellacious days. I think your first visit over here, buddy. I think you sat there and had to just shake your head. It was an insane day. Absolutely insane. All right, so now for you guys that have just tuned in, what I'm doing is I'm actually putting just a small little foot on the back of the transformer, and the reason why is that phenolic that's in between here during vibration, or depending on how hot this amplifier ever gets. Most of the time, most builders will set those up just a little bit off the board so that they don't make connection. So back here, what happens, you've got your B plus or your 12 volts here. So what happens is over time, I've actually seen these ground out on the board and start a fire, arc out, do all kinds of crazy things. So um, on the B plus side, I like to make sure that there's some kind of a foot or something that actually secures it so that there's not an issue later down the road. should be all we need the big one for. The rest of everything else we can do with a small soldering iron. Let's move this up where you guys can maybe see inside the amplifier while I'm working a little bit easier. Cleaning up for government work. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been a madhouse over here, Anthony, before. That's for sure. Yeah, sorry I'm not watching the comments and talking quite as much, but well, maybe I'm talking as much, but I'm just trying to view the comments at the same time as they come in. Now that junk piece of 14 gauge wire that they were feeding it with, see if we can't just reuse that. Huge difference. I think that was 16, but it almost looks like 18. Well, hello, Aaron. How's it going, big guy? So, well, if there's anything important to come in, guys. Same where you sent me a message, Anthony. A little harder to work with, but definitely worth the extra effort. Well, Anthony, has your dad thought any more about that amplifier he's wanting to have built? Alright, so far as a recap, we've got all new power wire already installed. We went ahead and pulled our transformer. Reworked it just a little bit, put a little heavier gauge wire in there, so it should actually tune just a hair better. Installed our new output tuning capacitor, upgraded the input going to our transformer to feed our transistors here. So I'm going to go ahead and check out the rest of this. I am going to go ahead and replace this and then make a small modification up here on the input. And what that'll allow you to do is it'll actually give you a more linear action in relationship to your variable adjustments. So that's something else that we're going to take a look at. In just a minute. Okay. Soldered in. Those are the 10 ohm resistors. As you can see, guys, there's two different sizes there. That doesn't need to be that way in this particular case. Although the resistance is the same, the fact of how they will let go in the circuit, that's a different story. Alright, let's go ahead and get the parts. We'll go ahead and make the feedback resistors and circuit for this. Let's see if I can't bring that transformer up just a little bit too. That way we actually use our choke, our inductance choke going to ground. Try to make it where you guys can see a little bit better in there. Yeah, sure, Anthony, we can do that. All right. Guys, you're getting quiet on me again. I'm gonna have some interaction because of the fact that I can't run a radio. They seem to frown on that for some reason. Just like Facebook. JR, I'm glad you're finding this interesting. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's been a while since I've actually got to play with one of these. So whenever I do actually get an amplifier in here, there's a lot of times where I'll jump on the chance to actually work on it over some of the other stuff I've got because it's been so daggone long. There we go. All I wanted to do is get that up off the ground a little bit. Well, JR, I'm sure you've already seen a huge transformation in this poor thing since it's walked in the door. Alright, so I have noticed over the years, some do, some don't. And I've seen different actions and reactions in relationship to this. But what I do is I actually use a modified feedback on the one pill section which is what we're actually installing now. And the reason why is I'm not sure what the customer's actually got that he's going to be running into this. But what this will actually do is it'll help buffer some of the physical input of the amplifier, or excuse me, of the radio going into it. So essentially it just makes it a little more or less likely that the one pill will be overdrove. I'm not saying that you still can't overdrive it, because you can by all means. But it just takes an infinitesimal amount and actually allows it to pass over the transistor to the output side. I'll tell you what, I seen that video Luke had posted here the other day, and it's like, gee, many Christmas. You know, I've attempted a lot of different things, but that all I can say on that one is wow. A 1x4 shoved into a Texas Star 350 case. Man, I'll tell you, you know, you can only fit so much shit in a 5-pound bag. So, what I'm actually trying to do here, move this around enough to where they're not laying on top of each other as far as on the input. Alrighty. Well, that takes care of our input to our variable that we've got on the front. Now what that extra resistor that I just put in there for will do, it's a high value resistor, but what it does, it actually allows the RF as it comes in and comes through the circuit and through the coax, it actually allows just a small portion of it to actually feed, to always continuously feed into the input transistor. Now, what that does is whenever you turn your variable, you are actually shunting RF physically to ground as far as from the input of the radio. What this allows is it allows, no matter where the wiper is inside of it, it will always allow a portion of it to go back into the input, so that it will actually lower the dead key and you'll actually have more modulated power no matter where you're at. The other thing that it'll allow you to do is on these 1x2s, whenever you go to adjust your variable, these things are just so touchy. You can move it that much and go from 100 watt down to like 5 watt carrier. So, it actually will allow a more linear operation in relationship to using that. Yes, this is all Toshiba. So, oh, okay. I didn't see the comment above that. But yeah, this one actually is a Toshiba build. I still wish we had Toshibas, guys. They're still my favorite. Alright. Well, basically everything I think is done, with the exception of we need to redo the fan wires, and I need to install one more part for safety. And once we get that in there, then we can go back, fire this thing up, and get you guys some numbers. So we've got that 10 amp diode in there. Now, not only do the 0.01 disc caps help in relationship to your RF, as far as to where it's not too far above ground, as far as on your input, the diode does actually a couple of different things. It actually takes a little bit of the EMF shock that you get typically from an alternator. It'll actually take a little bit of that off of it. The other thing too is it's also for reverse current protection, which is very, very important. I'm hoping that I don't have to take this whole thing apart. Get that to slide underneath the transformer. Hoping we were able to lift up the back of that transformer enough to get that phenolic plate to slide in there. There we go. Now I know that can't leave or move. So it's just all about safety. we go. So that's back in there like it's supposed to be. Now that's tight. Okay. That wire wasn't going to be long enough to sit there and get to the switch, so will be when we're done. Right, so one last little recap on everything. There it is. JR, one of the questions I've got for you, buddy, if you're still watching, my question to you, I know we talked about putting a couple of Anderson connectors on there. Do you just need the one, or do you need me to send you an extra one for you to put on the other end of your wire? KC9. KC9 KUH. Good afternoon. Just the one? Okay. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Like I said, I was so excited whenever this came in just to have something out of the norm, or what's been the norm here for the last couple of months. That's kind of the reason why you're getting in and out as quick as what you are right now. Because, like I said, man, I've been wanting something different for so long. And normally I check that before I ever start soldering, but trim a little excess off on that. Now the reason why I actually was dipping that was so that it'll go ahead and allow it to wick up inside the wire itself. Easy flies. But yeah, if you'll actually dip your connectors like that whenever you're doing that, like I said, it actually allows the solder to wick up inside the actual wire, and by doing so, it makes for a better bond. Also, you have less issues as far as solder actually coming out the top and rolling over it. Alright, now we got one more thing to do before we actually put a load to it, which I won't take but just a moment. We're going to check the pass-through tune on this. So that's not bad. 1.1, I think we're going to leave well enough alone. Oftentimes, which the smaller relays usually don't have as much issue with, but the larger the relays, your pass-through tune oftentimes will go up to 1.4, 1.5, even a 1.7, which is not acceptable because of the fact that it actually cuts down slightly on the receive. It actually diminishes the output of the radio itself. So, that's one of the reasons why we like to go back, double check some of the simple things such as that. And it also allows us to get a reading and make sure that all of our pass-through and everything's working correctly. Okay. Hello, audio. Audio, audio. Audio, audio. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, baby. Well, I can tell you right now with what we did, I've already seen 100 watt more peak power come out of this. Let's see if we can't get you here. Down a little bit. Go across here. All right, so this camera is definitely a little hard to get everything in focus here at the same time. Trying to get it here where we can see on the camera all of the meters at the same time. All right, so 5 watt slug in average in reverse, 5 watt slug back dummy load, 1000 watt slug in 1x position PEP, and our 500 watt slug in RMS. So add a little carrier to this. It's about 75 watts all the way up on the bill. Hello, audio, 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 audio. So input, hello, 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 audio. You've got about a 1/4 watt reflect on input, which is great, especially with this box. 5 watt slug in reverse for our average. Going back to our dummy load. Audio, audio. 1/2 watt reflect on the output. 500 peak. Hello, radio check. Audio, audio. And a little over 200 bird. Audio, 250. So we got 250 bird. Let's go ahead and look at the average here, where I've got that set at, which is approximately 80 watts. You're going to see as I'm dialing this down, take it down to what? I think that's about a 10 watt dead key. Hello, audio. You're still going to see about 475 PEP. So essentially all this is going to do is allow you to adjust your dead key. Audio, audio, audio. Because of the way we did our input. Still getting 200 bird. This thing's ready to rock and roll, biggin. The only other thing we're going to do, we'll turn on our FLIR gun. I'll do a little thermal imaging here. Get you back here into the view. If you can. So huge difference as far as on the overall. This way you guys can kind of see as far as where the heat itself is that's being produced. This is on the 1 pill section. You're going to see going across the feedback, you're going to see that that's actually got a little bit of heat to it. Actually not real bad. Go over here to the other side. As we're looking down in there. they're still cold to the touch, but they are above room temperature. So that's our feedback resistors going into our 1000 puff metal clad. You can see that there's no issues there. The transistors, I mean, they're just almost cool as a cucumber all the way around. You know, they're still showing up purple. You can see the output on the transformer. You can see where it's starting to heat up a little bit. You're not going to really have to worry about that because it's only 5/8. It's 5/8 core, so it's going to be able to handle a lot of heat as the output power goes through the wire on the. Get my finger in there. Going back to the bus rail, you can actually see a little bit of heat coming off of that. It's part of the reason why we went ahead and upgraded the wiring like we did. So. Tuning cap looks great. I mean, this thing's can ask for much better the way this is set up, guys. Best part about it, the only thing that I had to actually do was change the output tune. Everything else was golden on it. So, all right, JR. I guess the only thing that's left for me to do is hook up the fan and make up the bill and give you a call here in just a little bit. That way we can get it wrapped back up and hopefully get it out to you as soon as tomorrow. But guys, I appreciate it. Like I said, you know, I'm trying to do a few more YouTube videos. By the way, from where this was at maximum, all the way at the top here, I've still got it set. From where I had this up at maximum, if you'll look for that rollback, that's how much I had to turn it to drop it down on the carrier that much. You know, so, you know, huge difference as far as that goes by, you know, adding one little part. Like I said, you actually have more control over the physical amplifier, which is what you should have. So, all right, folks, I appreciate it. We'll catch you on the next round. I'm sure I'll be doing another live feed here later this week, just not sure on what. So, if you liked everything today that you've seen, please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. 1000% impressed. All right, Ryan. You take care, big guy. We'll catch you on that round trip. Bump, bump.